I'm a GI fellow, so I get called by lots of interns. Full disclosure, this first tip is more of a pet peeve of mine. But when you page a consult and get a call back, when you answer the phone, don't just answer and say, hello? Say who you are and what team you're with. Hey, this is Ben with Medicine A. This is John with Surgery. This is Derek with General Surgery. This is Nancy with Neurosurgery. It's friendlier and it saves time. I guarantee you it's going to make a more pleasant consulting experience. Number 2, do not call a consult if you have not seen the patient yet. I'm not saying you need to do a full hour-long H&P examination of the patient and wait for your entire workup to come back, but if you're calling me for my opinion on what to do about a patient, you should have at least seen them and briefly spoken with them first. Even if I was the one who accepted the patient to come to the hospital, if you're the primary person on the team calling the consult, you should have seen them first at least. This can help give me an idea of how they look before I come see them, and hopefully give me some answers to basic questions that are relevant to the consult. And this leads to my next tip for a good GI consult. It's not everyone's favorite, but in my opinion, if you're calling a consult for a GI bleed, then you should always have done a rectal exam. Why? Because it gives us a lot of information, even before we come see the consult. I know sticking your finger up someone's butt isn't the most glamorous thing to do, but if you do a rectal exam and there's red blood on your finger or there's black tarry stool, which is also called melena, then this tells us that the bleed is likely actively happening right now. Versus if there's just good old-fashioned brown stool on your glove, they're probably not bleeding right now. If their history still suggests it, they might have had a GI bleed, but if there's brown stool on your glove, it stopped. They're not having a GI bleed anymore. This can help us determine the urgency of the consult and the urgency of a future scope. They're probably going to need a scope regardless of what your rectal exam shows, but not necessarily a scope today. And that's where the rectal exam comes into play. If you're calling a consult and you think that a procedure might be needed, it's a good idea to know when the patient last ate and if they're on any blood thinners, either at home or in the hospital. This could also affect the timing of any procedure that's needed, so it's good to get that out of the way right away when you're calling the consult. And you can almost guarantee that me as the GI fellow is going to ask you that over the phone. The most important thing with calling consults, don't be afraid to make a mistake. Unfortunately, every consulting team or even consulting fellow wants something a little bit different. So you're probably not going to get it exactly right the first time, the second time, or probably even the third time. And if they're relatively decent people, they'll recognize that it's early July and that they shouldn't blame you for everything. We love to blame interns, but it's rarely your fault. Happy consulting.